Philadelphia Eagles at the New England Patriots. Eagles coming off their Super Bowl loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're favored by 4 over the Patriots, and the Patriots are welcoming Tom Brady back to celebrate his career here in New England. What are you looking for in this one? Philly favored by 4 at the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, New England offense, what Mac Jones is going to look like with a real offensive coordinator again. Is he going to bounce back, or is this thing in trouble generally, like regardless of him? Do you see the reports of Albert Breer talking about Juju's knee?
Could explode at any time.
Explode. I mean, that's not good, right?
No, it's not good.
Even your knees.
You're the son of doctors. What does that mean?
Even your knees, wrecked as they appear to be, don't appear to be in danger of exploding at any time.
They can swell at any time.
Right.
I will have knee swelling,
but
quite a bit.
No risk of explosion. Or at least no apparent risk of explosion.
Not that I know of.
So a wide receiver's knee being at risk of exploding at any time sounds bad. And, he figures to be a pretty important part of that offense. So that doesn't sound great.
Yeah, it was kind of like my GM segment yesterday. New England is, they're going to be fundamentally sound on defense, and they're solid there, and they've got, good coaching, and it's just, to me, if you're going to compete week in, week out, you got to have the playmakers. And if you're going to have a rookie quarterback like a Mac Jones, you could take shots on playmakers like a DeAndre Hopkins, or like trading for a T. Higgins or a Brandon Ayuk or whatever it is. And I think until New England actually has playmakers that scare defenses, it's going to be a challenge for them. Yeah, in like a 1-week setting, we've seen Mac Jones with this type of group, put up 28, 30 points, and they run the ball pretty well. They did that 2 years ago. I mean, that's what you're banking on here. The 2021 Patriots were good for the majority of the season. Mac played effectively. They ran the ball well. But honestly, the post-Brady era for the Patriots has been, they've kind of beaten up on some bad teams.
Yeah.
When they beat up on the Jets, they beat up on a bad Colts team. They beat up on bad teams. But when they've run up against good teams, they've struggled.
Yeah.
They had no chance against the Bills.
I think
that's what we're going to see this week.
I think that's often the story of a team that doesn't have a clear elite quarterback as well. Like, you can beat bad teams with a decent quarterback. You tend to struggle, though, when you run into the teams that have really good quarterbacks. Like, it's honestly sort of sad state of the current NFL is it's almost just a linear representation of how good your quarterback is. If you have a really good one, you're going to be contending. If you have a really bad one, you have no shot. And if you have a guy in the middle, you're going to beat one of those sides and lose to the other. That's just the reality of where the world is at the moment. But the Patriots, they just desperately need to hit on one wide receiver ever. Just one. Like, if Tyquan Thornton had actually been the guy that they thought he was going to be, and they had discovered the next,
Mike Wallace,
Deshaun Jackson, anybody, any of one of those sort of dangerous speed weapons, that transforms this unit. Only it turns out that he's the next guy that you've just completely misevaluated as a wide receiver, and he is dying on this depth chart and going nowhere and actually being jumped by guys like Demario Douglas. Like, they just need somebody because they're not, like, they haven't gone to the marketplace and done a Randy Moss deal again, right? Which would change it. Like, you do the Randy Moss deal or the Wes Welker deal or the Brandon Cooks deal, you go and get one of those, that changes things as well. But instead, they're kind of moving the pieces around. It's like, let's get a Devontae Parker or a Juju with his exploding knee. Like, that's not moving the needle a huge amount. If they'd done that and hit on a Tyquan Thornton, that would change things. But one of those two things needs to happen. Like, they either need to go and do something big in the veteran trade market, right? Like, Nuke Hopkins would have been a thing they could have done. Or they need to actually hit on one of these wide receivers they draft. If neither of those things happens, I don't know that it matters that Mac Jones sort of bounces back to like an 80 grade this year with an offensive coordinator. It's just not going to be enough.
I mean, to me, that's the high-level picture of New England. The short-term issue now going up against Philadelphia is this offensive line. Michael Onwenu and Trent Brown, both questionable. And even when they're in there and starting, Calvin Anderson slated to start at right tackle. Trent Brown's just okay at tackle anyway.
I feel like the line will be fine. Like, I think people make too much of this line being a weakness now. It's not what it used to be, but I think it's still going to be.
It's still a mismatch against Philly's front, though.
But that's
from
more
a pass rush perspective,
right? That's more just because Philly's front is that good.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about for this week. So
fine.
That, and then the other matchup, the Eagles against the Patriots defense. Again, the Patriots defense was solid last year. They look good on paper. They're, again, fundamentally sound and struggle sometimes against mobile quarterbacks. They struggled against Justin Fields last year. But that should be an awesome matchup. I just don't know if the Patriots have answers. Get to see Christian Gonzalez against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith right off the bat. Jonathan Jones outside. I don't know if those guys are the answers against the Eagles playmakers.
No, probably not. Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia's offense looks like a mismatch relative to this defense. And, I think we've had a couple of listeners point out that the Patriots defense last season was really good, graded well, had really good numbers. But that was another example of they tended to feast against really bad offenses and not so much against
owned Zach Wilson twice, I believe. Got Sam Ehlinger in the Colts with their makeshift offensive line. I think their defensive performance was inflated by mismatches.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be the case against the Eagles, who are good like that. They're going to have their work cut out for them.
Philadelphia, we've talked a lot about teams, kind of changing what their starting point is. Philadelphia did not have these high expectations last year. Now they do, right? A lot of people picking them to go back to the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts just got paid. They have a couple new players to mix in there. They maximize James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Are they fragile there? Those guys have had ups and downs throughout their careers, but they were at their peak last year. Can they maintain that level of play? Those are my questions for the Eagles. But I think right now, coming into the season, the Eagles are going to look like they did last year, which is one of the best teams in the NFL. And what I thought last year was the best all-around team capable of winning any type of game any given week.
Yeah, it's really just looking at how the succession plan players are going to do. How does Cam Jurgens play now that he's the right guard instead of Isaac Seumalo? How does Reed Blankenship play as an every down safety now that he's expected to step in and take that role? How does Nakobe Dean play now that he starts year 2 when he didn't get starting year 1 with TJ Edwards gone? Either Jalen Carter or Milton Williams is going to have to try and replace Javon Hargrave, or the two of them in the aggregate. How close can they get to what was one of the best interior pass rushes in the NFL last season? So, we know they have the players, like they've planned this, but now you need to actually execute. So it's really just how each one of those individual succession plan players actually steps into that role and performs.
All right. Eagles favored by 4 in New England. Does Tom Brady's return mean anything? Where are you going?
I'm buying the Eagles still.
Yeah, same. I'll take the Eagles to cover the 4 on the road in New England.